Thank you, Senator Harcum, and thank you, Assemblywoman Glick. I love your optimism talking about delivering an on-time budget. Let's all keep our fingers crossed. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share the position of the Senate Republican Conference on agriculture, environmental conservation, and the housing budget proposals. These are areas that touch every single New Yorker and are extremely important. But I want to just make a general comment about the budget process. It needs to be more transparent. We're talking about a final spending plan that is going to land somewhere north of $233 billion. New York's spending plan will be one of the highest, if not the highest, budget in the entire United States of America. And those concerned taxpayers and even legislators who are interested in following the entire budget process, they're out of luck. Unless our state leaders reverse course following the completion of these subcommittee meetings, the budget discussions move behind closed doors and will be hidden from the public's view. On agriculture, the recently released 2022 USDA Census of Agriculture should serve as a wake-up call for all of us of just how important it is that our state government supports the viability and success of our family farms. Since the last ag census in 2017, New York State has lost nearly 2,800 farms and 364,000 acres of farmland. A significant portion of the decline is in dairy farming, an industry that is absolutely essential to our economy and to the health and well-being of all New Yorkers. We all know that students who are hungry struggle to focus and engage in the classroom, and they tend to be at greater risk for physical and mental health problems. Our Republican Conference supports the Healthy Schools meals and the additional funding for Nourish New York. We'd like to work together to open opportunities for more organizations to participate in the Nourish New York program. And we're also seeking clarification that farmers can sell whole and 2% milk through the Nourish New York program. We also support the added funding for programs including crop research, farmland preservation, and for farm worker housing. We are asking that the New York Farmers Refundable Investment Tax Credit be expanded to include new and renovated farm worker housing, and for continued support of our future farmers, whether that's resources for Ag in the Classroom, our Cornell Cooperative Extensions, and of course, the future farmers of America. We all know the challenges our farmers face are mounting, from the burdensome state mandates and regulations to higher production, labor, fuel, and feed costs. I would ask my colleagues to be mindful of these realities and ensure that we're not only providing the necessary financial incentives to support our family farms, but also that the policies we pursue do not make it harder for them to do business in New York State. For example, our farmers have major concerns with the push for electric, zero-emission agricultural vehicles when the technology does not yet exist. Our farmers are partners in protecting our environment, and we need to be realistic and work with them on sensible solutions. I want to touch really briefly on the extended producer responsibility. I want to thank Senator Harcum for listening to the concerns of many of our food producers and people in the packaging industry and making amendments to his bill. We recognize that food producers and those who package food products, including dairy products, follow very strict safety guidelines and quality control measures, as well as numerous state and federal regulations. I'm hopeful, Senator Harcum, that we can consider additional amendments to protect our employers and jobs while also protecting the environment.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go to
Moving
the
on to
Assembly.
environmental conservation.
Can you please keep it very brief? We each have the same amount of time to speak.
So, Senator Harcum, I will point out that I am the sole Republican here from the Minority Conference, and we're covering major topics: agriculture, environmental conservation, and housing. So, moving on to environmental conservation.
Other members of the conference could have come. There are other members on here.
There's one member appointed, and we have one alternate. That's all that's on the list.
Please just try to expedite. Thank you.
Our Senate Republican Conference supports the restoration of $250 million for the Clean Water Infrastructure Act. Our local municipalities and counties, particularly in our smaller communities and more rural areas, have a great need for infrastructure improvements essential to economic growth and housing development. We know that access to fresh water is one of the top selling points for our region when it comes to attracting new businesses. We need to continue to invest in water quality improvement projects, flood mitigation, farmland protection, combating harmful algal blooms, and I appreciate these increased dollars in the Senate One House. I also appreciate the efforts made by the Senate and our state agencies in response to concerns I know that I raised during the budget hearings, as did many of my colleagues, with regard to ensuring grant funding opportunities are more accessible to our smaller communities. I would ask that these efforts continue so that we can ensure that our smaller communities and counties are not inadvertently placed at a competitive disadvantage. Our conference would ask that policy proposals, including the RAPID Act and the New York Heat Act, be removed from the budget document, and that the authority to utilize eminent domain or the forceful taking of private property be removed from the RAPID Act. Same with the ability to develop on previously conserved lands. That should be removed. We've all seen the results of the Siena College Research Institute's latest Upstate New York Business Leader Survey. Survey respondents said a series of actions under the state CLCPA focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions are seen as having far more negative than positive impacts on businesses. When we consider these policies, we absolutely need to consider the environment, but we also need to consider the impact on local jobs and on consumers. In a state that already has the highest total tax burden in the nation and a business climate that ranks among the worst in the nation. And let us be mindful of the survey results, which also showed 81% of business leaders say that state government is a detriment to doing business in New York. Moving on to the final topic that I have, housing. While our Senate Republican Conference supports increased investments in programs such as our local land banks and farm worker housing, we are deeply concerned with the inclusion of policy proposals that include the premise of good cause eviction. And we do not support the majority's rejection of the 421A or replacement program. We would like to see the infill homes proposal expanded to include smaller cities. We'd also like to see funding included for an affordable housing relief fund available to non-public property owners. This fund would allow owners of affordable units to make needed capital investments to maintain our current affordable housing stock and provide tenants with improved units and amenities. We would ask that policy proposals, such as the New York Housing Opportunity Corporation, be removed from the budget and brought through the committee process so that they may be discussed and debated in the open, and so our municipalities, developers, and small businesses can have their voices heard. We acknowledge there are varying opinions and needs when it comes to housing. There should be a seat for everyone at the table. We should protect landlords and small property owners along with tenants. We should support new housing construction with incentives as opposed to mandates. We should facilitate infrastructure investments, and we should preserve home rule and protect local decision-making. Under Part CCC of the New York Housing Opportunity Corporation, the decision of a local municipality can be overridden by the state-appointed board. This is simply unacceptable. Strengthening our communities, helping local employers fill jobs, and attracting new business investment all require affordable homeownership options for workers and their families, from firefighters and police officers to nurses and direct support professionals to manufacturing technicians. Our state has the lowest home ownership rate of any state in the nation. We need to work together to ensure the American dream is still within our reach in our communities. We support the Olympic Regional Development Authority, $70 million in capital projects, and we ask for inclusion for resources for the private ski areas for the upgrades, modernization, and renovation of their facilities. And finally, parks, we support we support what has been included in the budget and ask for additional funding to study the need to dredge the state boat launch on Canandaigua Lake at the north end, one of the most popular and highly used boat launches in the state of New York. Senator Harckham, Assemblywoman Glick, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.